Pat and Ian, are there any movies or TV shows from your childhood that you can no longer watch for various reasons, racism, etc.? And the reason why I actually chose to put this on the Q&A is because it was actually on my mind recently. Anyone who's a fan of British comedy is probably aware of the show Fawlty Towers, which is brilliant. Which is brilliant, and it's a classic, and I watched it growing up, and I enjoyed it even more as I got older because I love John Cleese. As I got into the service industry, especially restaurants, I loved all the the customers and the restaurant scenes. But I actually found myself trying to rewatch it about a month ago, and I really have difficulty with the character of Manuel, and it's because here we have a Spanish guy being played by a white guy, doing an extremely stereotypical accent and act. And what I used to laugh at as a kid, and I mean, we all grow up immature, I didn't feel comfortable watching it. And it sucked because Fawlty Towers really has, in my opinion, some great comedy, but that ruins it.
So you could not take it in the context of when it was produced.
No, I mean, I can to a degree. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not writing it off, but it's much harder for me to watch now than it ever was. I think just now looking at it, it's tougher. Yes, I know the context changes it, but it's still a pretty bad freaking stereotypical impersonation of a Spaniard.
Are you familiar with Amos and Andy?
No, not really.
You know about it, though.
I know it, yes.
Okay, so Amos and Andy was an old comedy show starring African Americans, and you don't see it on TV anymore, but it's regarded somewhat of a classic. It was supposed to be really funny. People don't like it because there was stereotypical black characters on the show, whenever you hear it discussed, it was actually people discuss the fact that it was just really funny. They don't bring up any sort of racist caricatures that could have occurred, and it was a black cast. Right. It wasn't blackface. So I think it's hard to separate. Very hard to separate the context of these things versus for some people. For some people, they look at something that came out 70 years ago or 60 years ago, or Fawlty Towers like 30 years ago.
74? Yeah.
74, so now, wow, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's hard to separate. Some people, I don't have a problem going back and watching old Looney Tunes with, the racist caricatures, like the war propaganda ones. I just don't, because I realize that's when they're produced and why they're produced. I can do that. That's just me. But some people get offended by it.
I don't necessarily. I just get squeamish. Look, I understand, like that was the at the time. So, like, to go back to the Looney Tunes, you're looking at the enemy. They're characterizing the enemy because it's how they made people feel safe during wartime. But just because that was the context of it doesn't make me feel any better about watching it now. And I guess that's kind of my issue. I don't know, but yeah, I mean that answers the question. I mean, and that was literally on my mind, like, shit, not even a month ago, probably like a week ago. I was just thinking about it because Vonnie asked me what it was, and she was like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's good. We should watch it." I'm like, like, no, maybe not. Don't know about that. I read actually online that because he was like portrayed so poorly that in other Spanish-speaking countries he was portrayed as being from a different Spanish-speaking country.
Oh, the one that they didn't like.
So like in Spain, I believe he's portrayed as a Mexican.
Okay.
Like, it's just like no one wanted to own the character, so they just kept passing him around.
They kept going to, okay, we don't like Ecuador or something. We'll put him there.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's very subjective. It also depends on how you view comedy and how you view entertainment in general, I think. There's some people that don't like any sort of racial jokes in comedy. Some people think it's unacceptable. No, see, I think it's fine. It depends on who you are.
Racial jokes in comedy don't necessarly bother me.
Context is everything to me.
It is, but like I said, just to go back to it briefly, I think the main thing with Manuel was just that he was just the butt of so many jokes.
It was just so much.
Yeah, it was just constant. Like he never had his time to be, the hero or anything like that. He was the joke always.